All right, it is 7 p.m. I will call this Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 Board of Selectmen meeting to order. Ken Beausoleil and myself, Amy St. Ange, are here in the live room, and Suzanne Witkowski is zooming virtually. We will begin with agenda item 2, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from September 2nd, 2025.
Second,
Okay, any discussion on,
I think there was something, and forgive me because I don't have them printed, so I'm going back and forth between
Okay.
minutes and agenda, but I think there was something about me reading the proclamation for John Bell, and I thought I was virtual that meeting.
yes. Yeah, you were virtually. I did read it.
It's not a major
Yeah.
thing, but
All right, so we'll make note of that. That it was Amy St. Ange that read the proclamation out loud.
yes, and that was the only thing that I saw.
Right. And I know you weren't here for that meeting,
Right.
but the minutes looked okay, right? Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 And I abstain as not being in attendance.
All right, correspondence. We have from Jared Jacobone, our library director. He did receive a concern in regard to handicap parking at the library, suggesting that it be in the area near the little roundabout area, which a lot of people park there, but it's technically not parking, because if I'm correct, that's a fire lane. I'm gonna double check with Jamie, our fire marshal, on the conditions there. And then I'll render a response to Jared in regard to this matter. The individual did call the selectman's office as well.
Can I suggest we look up the ADA compliances on that too?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Marie's really versed in it.
Oh, good. I
But
wasn't sure who we reach out to in this circumstance, if it was Joe Tasic or Marie or who.
no, Marie's the resident ADA expert.
There you go.
And yeah, and Jamie will be able to guide us as far as space for the fire lane.
Sounds good.
The second bit of correspondence that we've received was in regard to early voting, which we will also be putting up on our website and our Facebook page so that people know what the early voting dates are. Suzanne, we also received today, an individual came into the selectman's office, and I gave copy to Ken, so I'll email it to you. It's a free workshop that's taking place on October 12th, and the Board of Selectmen was invited to attend. So I will send that over to you as well.
What is it on?
Depolarizing ourselves.
Oh, okay.
First step towards civil engagement, it said. So it's a pretty lengthy description of the workshop, but it sounds kind of interesting. It's taking place at the First Church of Christ in Mansfield. Mansfield, Connecticut, of course. So I'll share that with you.
Thank you.
Just
Yeah.
based on this, I'm just wondering why they didn't wait till after the election coming up. Because there'll probably be a lot of administrative changes
Changes, yeah.
throughout the state.
Maybe they wanted it before the election.
But we won't be,
Yeah,
with a changeover, it
right.
would make sense to have new people coming in to be involved as well.
Yep.
Right?
Any other correspondence to bring before the board tonight?
I have nothing.
And anything? No. All right, moving on to agenda item 5, selectmen comments. Any selectmen comments?
Community Day,
Community Day coming up, October
which
4th.
is, which is always a great come out. Hopefully, it looks like the weather should be good, the way it's been going. It's always a great day, very well attended. It's a great way to meet your neighbors and what's going on in town. Just a touch, I was not able to be here for John Bell, and he was an excellent candidate. I wish the Veterans of the Month, having worked with John on over the years, and the fact that he was also on the Board of Selectmen for a couple of years, was an outstanding choice.
Yeah.
And I congratulate him.
Suzanne, any select?
I actually don't have any comments, but I could not agree with Ken more about John Bell.
For sure. The one thing that I did want to, it's not on the agenda tonight, but that's only because we've yet to potentially draft a proposed legal notice for town meeting. Ken being familiar with Mizrac, we do have a very, very interested developer who's moving fast and furious to acquire 630 Riverside Drive. So that's the old Belding Porticelli site. His plans are dynamic. He also has an environmental engineer that's working with him to get through some of the hoops for the remediation on the property. So I did just want to bring it to the public's attention and to this board's attention, although, like I said, Ken's very familiar with it. That we'd really like to see a town meeting, for the potential sale of the lien on that property to this developer, similar to what we did with Mr. Gumper on 929 Riverside and 915 Riverside. So it might be something where I call a special meeting, so that we can fully discuss it as a board. But if you've attended or you haven't been able to attend the Mizrac meetings, those recordings are online. So you can watch the Mizrac meeting and hear all about the plans that this developer has. I'm excited for it, and watch for a public presentation coming up soon where the developer will unveil his plans for the site. So super psyched about that. But I would like to see this move forward and see progress. It'll bring some additional business to our community, and it'll really revitalize an area in town that's sort of the gateway to our downtown area that's just in ruins at this point. So be watching for that.
All right.
The only other thing I got that was in the minutes, which was tabled and it's not on the agenda, is that United, whatever, the healthcare thing for the parking lot.
Yes.
So we should add that to the,
I had wanted to make sure that you saw the video. And then also Suzanne and I had discussed going to tour the site. And September 22nd, they will be at Putnam Town Hall and for the morning portion, and then the YMCA for the evening portion. And I really thought it was important if we all went individually, if we could. So that's this coming Monday, and tour the facility and ask any questions that we might have, because I know I have some questions to ask before we move forward and give approval.
so that's on the 22nd.
Yeah, so I was thinking that we would, I know the minutes said we'd have it on this week's agenda, but
What was the,
so it's a mobile health, women's.
no, I
mobile
know what
health-
it is.
oh,
When they're
September,
gonna be there.
September 22nd, I believe it was 10 to 2. And
Yeah.
I'll confirm and send it to both of you. And then that's at the Putnam Town Hall, 10 to 2. And then the Putnam YMCA, the Hale YMCA from 3 to 7 on that day.
3 to 7. September 22nd. Okay.
And if Suzanne, if you're for some reason not in town and you have questions you'd like me to ask potentially of them, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
All right, any other selectmen comments this evening?
I do not have any.
I don't either. All right, we'll move on. Oh, how could I forget this? Not only do we have Community Day coming up, but just please mark your calendars for an epic event that's taking place on Blash Road on the line to Woodstock. And that is the Battle of Fairholme Farm. It is going to be an amazing experience. Bring your families out to this. It's going to be a true reenactment with so many amazing reenactors and if they're gonna transport you to revolutionary times, and it's really a 3-town kickoff. We have Woodstock, Putnam, and Thompson all participating in this and helping to finance the event. And it's a kickoff to our America's 250 celebration. So something you don't want to miss, October 11th and 12th, so that's Columbus Day weekend. The battles will be beginning at 2 o'clock. But we also will have George Washington addressing the troops at 1:30. So you don't want to miss that on Saturday. And then the battle will take place at 1:30 on Sunday. So again, Columbus Day weekend, mark your calendars. And that's all. With that, I'll open up the floor to citizen comments, and we will start in the room. Any citizen comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. We'll move to the virtual audience. Ms. Valerie Clark, citizen comments. State your name and address.
Amy, you have mine memorized. Valerie Clark, Alm Road. Two items, and I missed last meeting. And I'm going to say what you've heard from me before when this topic has come up in the past. We should not be legislating against one individual. So blight ordinances should not be developed against one individual. I said it when we had the Mason House issue, and I said, if you're patient, things get resolved on their own. And look what happened with the Mason House, right? It's a gem once again. We had other blight ordinance topics come up in the past. I have consistently said, do not legislate against a single individual. And so that is my statement regarding blight ordinances. In addition to that, I also wanted to bring up that for the second year in a row, there was a Honda Fest held in town, and there were terrible problems on East Thompson Road. There were people racing, backfiring, burnouts, all on public roads. I reported it to the police. They said that they would notify the area trooper. As far as I could tell, nothing got done. I know I'm not the only person who reported a problem, and it went on for over 2 hours. It was dangerous, loud, and illegal. And I would recommend that for the future Honda Fests, which I'm sure there will be one every year now, that the town request that the state police take notice of these offenders. Thank you.
Valerie, can I just ask you, what day was that? Because I didn't know anything about it.
Sunday,
It was what? Oh, it was this past Sunday?
this Sunday, yes.
Okay. All right. We did not get any calls, but I will look into it.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Sally White.
Hello,
Hi, Sally.
okay. You mentioned the mill, and I think you used the adjectives that he had dynamic plans, and you said you were really excited about it. Would you please share a few of the dynamic plans? What's different about this and what looks promising?
What looks promising to me is the addition of a restaurant, keeping the historic smokestack somehow intact as a tribute to what was there. Mixed use commercial, storefronts, small market, maybe some type of a boutique. It's just, it's a vision. Keeping the guard shack and renovating the guard shack into a potential little coffee house. So things that are very quintessential to the area and you know, will be welcoming to the public that might be coming. And obviously it's conceptual. And then I know he also had, the developer had also suggested keeping a lot of green space. Since not a lot of that property is actually developable. So there will be still a lot of green space, and it'll be a park-like setting as well that will be be kept in the space as well.
Thank you. That sounds terrific if even a portion of that comes to be.
Yep. Ms. Valerie Clark.
Yep, just real quick, I want to agree with what Sally said. Those do sound like really exciting and special plans for that site. So it'd be nice if we could have that. Thanks.
So watch for that presentation. Again, we're thinking October 1st, but we'll see. All right, any other citizen comments in the Zoom room? All right, just know there's another set of citizen comments to come. And we'll move on with more business. Agenda item 7, EMS supplemental funding request. So I will just introduce this from the get-go. We have Attorney Ed Higgins, who's here. He is and I want to just really point out to the public that Attorney Higgins is a volunteer chairman of the Putnam EMS Board. And we have Tammy Spirica, the administrator for Putnam EMS. Just to give a little background, if people do or don't remember, in 2021, the PSA was handed over to me in my office and I was told to figure it out. The ideal solution at the time was to work in collaboration with the town of Putnam to employ the Putnam EMS, which Putnam EMS is a private entity, private nonprofit. Nonprofit, right? Okay, I did get that right. And it is not an entity of the town of Putnam, in spite of what you might read on social media. The service has been a work in progress. We've been working out a lot of the kinks together. We do have 3 representatives of the town of Thompson. We have Rob Werge, our Board of Finance Chair, who represents on the board, James Sine, who is also our fire marshal, but very familiar with EMS service, and Logan Taylor, who is actually an EMS administrator for North Stonington Ambulance. And those 3 represent this town well. They make most of the meetings. I would say probably 90% of the meetings, 1 or 2 or all 3 of those representatives are present for those meetings. There's been some back and forth about the cost of the service, but what I do want to point out that our surrounding towns, Woodstock currently pays $559,448 for their Woodstock EMS service. That solely services Woodstock, whose population is 8,221. And Pomfret, Hampton, and Eastford have a 24/7 service that's provided by KB Ambulance. The total population for those 3 towns is 7,643. Their 24/7 service costs $462,000. The current year's contract with Putnam EMS for this year with the town of Thompson is $305,963. We also have $35,000 that gets credited off that amount because they are still paying us for 2 of the ambulances that were sold to the service. Next year's contracted price, because we did enter into a 5-year contract, is $315,142, and the final installment will be paid that year of $35,000 for the 2 ambulances, and then the ambulances will be completely paid. The Chairman Higgins is here just to explain the needs. Many of us have seen what the request will be if we've read any of the Facebook posts that Winnie has put out there. And both Ed and Tammy are here just to explain the reason for the request, what the request is, and it'll be up to the Board of Selectmen to decide tonight if we move it forward to the Board of Finance. With all that explanation, I will turn it over to Ed and Tammy. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. St. Ange. It's okay if I sit or do you want me to stand?
Well, it's
You probably should
helpful
come up
if you-
close.
Yeah, even if you sit on one of the chairs here, that way you're close to the microphone.
Yeah, thank you for adding us on the agenda for the request and appreciate, your overview, Amy, of the service. We do appreciate it. We've had good representation from the town. Not to belabor things, but just to kind of bring everybody up to speed from where we are now, from when we started on this project, so to speak. We're in the fourth year now. But I think at the time back then, it was identified that it made sense to try to collaborate with two towns to spread the expenses, to be able to maintain the nature of the service that we have now. Historically, Putnam EMS, it went through different permutations over the year, but it's always been a nonprofit. It started by volunteers in 1954 to provide service to Putnam, Thompson, Woodstock, and Eastford. And then over the years, it morphed and it was Putnam and Pompton, and then it was strictly Putnam. And it had always been relying on volunteers, just as a lot of our emergency services had historically. As time went on, that just wasn't feasible, so we started to have to allocate to pay for full-time folks. And prior to affiliation with Thompson, it did reach a point, I think it was just after COVID, where in the town of Putnam, we were having a very serious problem about getting people, both paid staff people and volunteers to make the service calls. We were having run times of up to 25-30 minutes before the ambulance was able to get to a location. So the selectmen at that time did agree and to allow for some additional funding, allowed us to pay more for the people so that they would stay on. So then when the opportunity, I don't mean to say an opportunity because I know it was unforeseen circumstances in Thompson that resulted in Thompson having to look up that service, but at that point in time, it did make sense, I think, to explore trying to combine the services. I think the goal at that time was a couple of things. One, to provide 24/7 service to both towns and to have prompt response times. And then the third was to try to level out the funding. So ideally, the billing plus the town funding would cover the expenses. Every year, we do have to file and apply for a rate increase. As a nonprofit, we take the rate increase, the state allows it to about 2.1% over the billing rate for the previous year. And as we went along, I think, and it's constantly a learning process, I think, for everybody involved, but the funding, you build your budget, you depend upon the funding, you project what the revenues will be. And I think what has evolved is that in our part of the state, the payer mix ends up being that a lot of folks aren't able to pay the full rate, or they have Medicare, they have Medicaid, which pays an adjusted rate. I don't know, Amy, our consultant, Bob Holdsworth, did update the figures. We asked him to get, because there were some figures being thrown around out there about what the town's pay rates for the last 12 months. For Putnam, the combined Medicare and Medicaid pay participation for the service was 88.1%, and Thompson was 76%. So I think the net result is a lot of the funding comes in, not all of the bills. I don't know if it's 30 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar, bills get paid. Another issue that came up as we rolled into the process, we did hire a billing service initially. That was very reputable. I think what happened, as we understand, the billing service, which handled services all throughout the country, ended up being purchased by a bigger entity. They started to de-emphasize looking to work with smaller communities and services like ours. We ended up having a very unsatisfactory collection rate with them. So we did go through a process. We interviewed other firms. We engaged a firm that deals more with smaller community services. The transition period also resulted in a drop off of revenues. I think in hindsight, the billing service that we worked at, they weren't prioritizing our bills. We had to wait until a 120-day period after their contract ended to attempt to get from them the information relative to accounts that they had been received to collect, but they hadn't processed. And we're going through that process now to try to recover some of that, to see if we can collect on that. Whatever money we can get, we'd be very appreciative from that billing. I think we've been advised, at least from our consultant, that historically, probably the average collection on accounts like that of that age might be 10 to 20% of the total amount. So we're not optimistic that that's going to help. But with the drop off in the billing income, we had continued to have the expenses, and now we started to run into circumstances where we were running behind on some of our accounts payable. When we did put the budget together this past year, we felt that there was about a $60,000 to $70,000 accrued accounts that we had to pay. We did not include that in the amounts that we were asking for the towns to support at that time. We were optimistic that the new billing service, they were projecting that they would be realizing $75,000 to $80,000 per month on the billing revenues. it's starting to trend up to that point finally. It hasn't over the past summer, it's dropped off. I think 1 month it was about $50,000, another, it's about $30,000. So the problem is we're starting to fall behind on some of these accounts. I asked our treasurer just to outline some of there's many accounts, but some of them, for instance, we have like a $26,000 outstanding account with, the Eastwood Fire and Service that does all the repair work on the units. And we're also trying to bring up an arrearage. We have to collect for KB, for the paramedic intercept. We've been working with them. We have about a $34,000 arrearage with them. And then we also have, we're behind them paying our billing service too, which we haven't been able to pay them about 18,000. We do have repairs and we do have budgeted expenses that we've been deferring to take on until we start to try to get things leveled out. And we also, at the last budget, we did agree to increase the pay for all this service roughly about $1 an hour. I think that the pay and the health and the benefits package that the staff members get, I think it's played a big role in our ability to both retain and also to engage people that have served. I think we've had a pretty good retention rate in terms of people that are providing the service. So those challenges, I think, and with existing, other needs that we have, these lifts that now have to be used are electronic lifts, I believe. They're very expensive. We have to replace one of them. We have to repair those. So we have these mounting expenses coming up. We saw this on the horizon probably 3 or 4 months ago, and we had a subcommittee of our board. We had Marisine, Rob Wurge, myself, Tammy, and then Tara Perrin, who's our treasurer, worked together to try to look at things, to try to identify how we could handle things. And we also have been meeting with the representatives KB about working on the arrears with them. From those meetings, it was identified that we thought if we could request from both towns $60,000 in additional funding, that would allow us to clear up the existing accounts, plus also put some money that we can start to meet some of our budgeted expenses. So that's roughly in a nutshell, that's why we're here tonight. And we do appreciate the support of the town. I do think it's working from our perspective, my perspective, Tammy's perspective, I think is working well. We're trying to carry out the mission. We hope we can continue to do that, but I think we realize, money is money and it's not unlimited, but I think, by the same token, we want to be able to continue doing what we're doing at this level. I do think, as you alluded to, Amy, ultimately the responsibility rests with municipalities to provide for emergency medical service at whatever level they feel appropriate. This is probably I think a good level, a maximum level. You got 24/7 coverage. I think the average response times to get on the road are what, Tammy?
3 minutes.
3 minutes and 8 minutes to arrive. Some locations are further distant, but I think it's with the housing of an ambulance in Thompson and also in Putnam, it's providing good synergy. So I think with this additional funding and we're relying on the projections that the new billing service is starting to get its feet under them, that the revenue is going to start to improve. And I think, hopefully we'll kind of level out. I do think, as you noted, and I appreciate you noting that, maybe that our neighboring towns, they pay, the town I live in pays, significant amount more. I also think to myself, I can't help but believe that towns like Pomfret and Woodstock, that Medicare, Medicaid percentage is probably a lot less. You probably have more private pay insurance where they're actually realizing more revenues from the billing, which gives you an idea of the costs.
Based on the demographics, you're
Yeah,
probably correct.
So, but I appreciate the opportunity to present this. I'm happy to try to answer any questions if you or Suzanne have any.
Okay, any questions? I'll move to my board.
Ed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When did this issue start with the billing service?
I think it was about 1.5 years ago. I keep losing track of time. The time goes by so fast.
Last summer.
Yeah, well, it was October before was when we started the process.
Yeah, we started the process in the summer.
Yeah.
Because there is a process with switching over, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly
Yeah.
from the
It
meeting.
took us about 3 months.
Yeah.
And you said that KB's owed money.
I'm sorry.
KB is owed money, about
KB is
34.
old money. Yeah, they do contractually with part with COG. They have to provide paramedic.
Yeah, they do, right, because they contract with NECOG.
Yeah, and they can't bill for it, so they rely on us
Yeah,
to do.
That's part of it, and there's a certain amount that DK contributes,
Right,
and that's a moving target.
Yeah.
Depending on what they're doing. And where are you at with the billing service being owed? The current one.
The current one, I think we have a rearage of about 18,000.
And with Eastford that does, I can't remember it.
Repairs, Eastford Fire, that's
Eastford Fire, you said
Yeah.
what, 25?
26,000, roughly put in. And then, that's not all the expenses, I do think we have some deferred equipment purchases and deferred adjustments to pay that's supposed to go into effect in July. And we've kind of put that off until we can try to get a handle, on the finances.
Suzanne?
So these kind of discussions are never easy. We've just come off a 4 referendum budget, one of the worst I have seen in the 25 years I've been involved in budgets. So coming to our board, asking for 60,000 additional on top of the contracted rate we already have is a big challenge for me. I have a real issue with it because I don't think this started yesterday. And we have no documentation. I've asked in the past for audits, I've asked for financial information, revenue information, staffing, and I basically stopped because even though it was part of our contract, we haven't received anything. At least I haven't. No annual operating budget, nothing. And the only information I can find is tax returns that show me that this started a couple of years ago, that the deficit started. So I understand that you have current bills that are outstanding, but I am very reluctant to spend taxpayer money on a nonprofit that we are in a contract with. I have asked repeatedly if we could look at other options, and maybe that's not something that we discussed tonight, but I think that this is an issue today, but I don't see a guarantee, any corrections that it's not going to happen again, that we're not going to need more equipment, and equipment is expensive. And we know the ambulance service is a challenge, and new trucks will need to be purchased. You said you have repairs that need to be done, but new apparatus will need to be purchased. We can't invest taxpayer money consciously without at least having more documentation on this and consistent reporting. I think being blindsided by this, I can't support this. And this was part of my concerns in the beginning.
I appreciate it, Suzanne, and I do recall that you had a lot of reluctance about the whole approach to begin with. The only thing I'd offer comment and return to that is I think in the contract, it's correct. We did project what the annual rates would be, but we also, as I'm sure you'll recall in the contract, we were concerned and we wanted to put a marker down that, I mean, it's a work in progress. We don't know what the expenses are going to be as we go into it. We don't know what the revenues that the billing are going to be, that we reserve the right to approach the towns if we needed to request supplemental funding. And also that, and the annual amount of the contracted rate that we reserve the right to bring that in. We're just trying to provide the service that we, understood that the town wanted. I'm sorry that you haven't been receiving the documentation. I do know that, 3 of the board members and most of them, 2 at least, are very regularly attend. They participate in the budgeting process and they receive all of that documentation. I do encourage, that's why we have town representation to reach out to those members for that information.
We typically receive presentations from our other nonprofits and I understand you're contracted, but they're contracted as well. So during our budget season, I had thought that you would come in and present to us, and that was not happening. And I do know that it says that you can request an adjustment in the funding with clear financial justification. I'm not clear on the justification of this. I understand your billing company had some speed bumps, but I'm not understanding why that's the town's responsibility. The other thing is we were to have a second shift, a swing shift, and to date we don't have that, I don't believe. And that was factored into the financial aspect of this contract.
Okay.
I'm considered part of that second ambulance in the town of Putnam. We don't staff another person, because we don't have a lot of calls that will require that second ambulance. Between the Thompson ambulance and the Putnam ambulance, they have been very good about being able to cover one another.
Tammy,
So, but I am part of that crew. Yes, sir.
could you just come up, because it makes it difficult to hear, and
Thank
you're kind of soft-spoken.
That was not part of the contract, though. The contract was that we would have additional ambulance staff during peak hours.
The initial, I mean, I'm just gonna step up. This is a great partnership. This is an excellent partnership. The call response time is impeccable. We were stepping out into the unknown. And yeah, the third crew that we projected isn't maybe as needed as we thought it was. It might have been projected, but it wasn't as needed as we thought it was, and we do have a third crew now. There's just not many calls that are coming in that are utilizing it.
Yeah.
There's very little mutual aid response. Both the Thompson and the Putnam crew are covering one another really well. And part of the reason why this service, the bump in the road, is the fact that we wanted to attract EMTs to the service. We wanted to recruit and retain EMTs. There's a small pool of EMTs in this area, and it's not growing. If anything, you lose a few, whether they become paramedics or they move on to other careers. It's generally a stepping stone career. And we increased the salaries to be some of the highest in the area in order to attract and retain people. We offered the company offered good benefits. But there are a lot of moving parts and things that I know the board is considering to make adjustments to, whether it's the scheduling, to limit overtime, to find a cost savings, whether it's, I know they're looking at finding another insurance plan. Because a lot of the EMTs are younger people and they don't need Cadillac plans for insurance because they're not going to the doctor as much as older individuals might. So I know that they're taking effective steps to try to find cost savings methods and to streamline the service. We have 3 board members. I'm happy to, we get a financial report every meeting. I've missed a couple, most recently, the last couple months, I've missed some meetings because I've had other commitments, but Rob, Jamie, or Logan all attend. So the data is there if you want it. And as far as them presenting, I did not actually request that they come and present during budget season. So I will take responsibility for that.
I know I've asked in the past for audit reports, and I was kind of basically told it was none of my business.
Who told you it was none of your business?
I got an email from you, Amy, that basically said that we didn't.
I'd like you to share that email with me, Suzanne, because I don't think I told you it was none of your business.
No, you didn't say it in those words.
Well, you just said that
I
publicly.
said that
I did
basically,
not say it in those
it
words.
stated that it was not for me to ask for that
I still
information.
want you to share that email with me.
I will.
I expect that to come through.
Speaking of the audit report, just it reminds me of one additional accrued expense we have as our accountant. Has been preparing our tax returns and we've had to file some reports with Medicare. We've had to file annually for the rate increase. We also owe him, I think, close to $10,000 or $12,000. And in terms of the audit, we did discuss, because one of the alternatives on the filing for rates each year would be you could file for a higher rate, but you'd have to have a fully audited account of all your financials for the year, and we're advised that could cost up to $10,000 to $12,000 to do that, and it might not result in much more of an increase above what the state rate without any audits would be. So audits are something that are not inexpensive to be done. I think we rely on, having good board representation. Your chairman of your Board of Finance is very diligent. He helps at the meetings. He's been very influential and very helpful in trying to construct this financial plan to try to keep what we have going to be able to continue into the future.
All right, a couple of questions, Ed. with the contract that you had with the past billing service, do we have any recourse?
Unfortunately, I don't think we do, I think to try to engage, lawyers to sue them, I mean, that's additional.
I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't think we do, we
Because
don't know.
obviously they didn't uphold their end by doing their due process,
That's right,
representing us.
yeah,
And if there is any money owed them,
yeah,
I would have to think that,
yeah.
let them sue us to get it.
No, we're not. I mean, I think what the course we're on now, we're going through the process to request demand from them. We have to turn over to us accounts that they have not collected on. And we'll be able to then, I think, get a handle on what those are and what the likelihood of being able to collect those would be. But again, we don't know that it's gonna be, it's gonna be a sizable amount. We think we're in hopefully a good position now going forward. I do think, that, and I appreciate that, you do want to have responsible nonprofits. I do think, though, the difference between an organization like this and probably other nonprofits that contract with towns is that I trust that most of those nonprofit services all have paid staff that are doing that. That's their job. I mean, basically, we're all volunteers. Tammy gets paid. We have a treasurer who's told us she wants to resign 19 times. She gets maybe $500 a month for doing all the bookkeeping. She doesn't want to do that job because she's tired of having to put off bills and have people upset about that. We have a difficult time getting people to fill those roles. I've told the people on the board 4 times that after 40 years, I want to be done at the end of this year and appointed a nominating committee, and I'm still waiting for a report from the nominating committee and who wants to take over the lead role. So it's not something that we're trying to do to, create kingdoms or to create positions that go on and on. I think we do feel honestly that it's a good service presently for the town. It's a good model service for the town, and hopefully we can, if we can't, just as the town has, if we're not able to make we can go through a probably and disengage if we have to. I mean, we don't want to have to do that, but we have to be able to cover the expenses that.
Well, if you go under, Putnam and us are looking for a service.
Yeah.
NECOG did do a study, I think 7 years ago. And Bob Holsworth was you probably remember that. And the recommendations back then is try to keep what we had afloat. Because we don't have the call volume, and that regionalization was definitely gonna become a thing of the future. And merging with, we know what it was costing us for KB ambulance when we were in between, which
Yeah.
was very expensive.
Yeah,
That merging and making the service work
Yeah.
is part of that regionalization. The only thing that, and I have not heard bad things about the service.
Mhm.
There's always a glitch here and there. In the beginning, we did go over the times and we did, you did work with them to get them down, which is very good. I mean, one of the things that we do have coming, we still have the issue with the housing at Thompson Hill. That's gonna have to get rectified in the future at some point, out of the goodness of their hearts. They are still allowing that to happen there, but eventually I would have to think that's gonna come to a head, and that is gonna be an expense for
Yeah.
the association to figure out how to do that. The having the representation, because we were all there in the beginning
Mhm.
on the boards and everything. The thing that I'm disappointed in is that this all came to light to the Board of Selectmen when Barney blew it out of the water on the radio, on Facebook. And we're looking at a year and a half, we're looking at issues, cash flows. I want to make sure going forward that this type of issue doesn't happen again, that nobody wants to be blindsided. If we know something is going on, we can deal with it as we're moving forward. That there are issues and, how are you trying to work through them, et cetera, and so forth. So having this come out of this and hearing it is very discouraging.
Yeah, we surely don't enjoy having to.
I didn't say, but
ask for that,
it's a transparency
Yeah,
to both towns to figure out how to make this work and keep everything afloat.
exactly.
And we do need those assurances moving forward. We still got another year or so on this current contract, that this doesn't happen again. hit the stuff head on and, costs do happen, ambulance could get totaled, you only get X number of dollars, equipment goes down. There was a shortage of ambulances, being available since COVID. Everybody's been upgrading, I mean, many services, so, and then everything goes up to a premium. So we have to, our representation and the association has to be more transparent, so we don't get blindsided.
And we're very, we're very regretful about the way that it kind of evolved like that. We did, as I said, when we put the budget together last year, we were reluctant to approach the towns for more. We did have an arrearage, but we felt confident that the billing revenue was gonna make up with that.
But
it
again,
hasn't.
that's, you still have that communication saying, this is where we are, this is
Yeah.
what we think is gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're not sure. And I am disappointed in all of the representation for the town, both towns, that we did not get that information. So, we're not here tonight and
Yeah,
looking, and we just went through a very tough budget.
I know.
And if we needed to increase that, that would be the time to do it. I mean, right now, just in our budget and the fund balance, we came in at 0.01 budget increase, I believe, which was nothing, which means the fund balance does not go up because you're making adjustments, and now you're looking at, because we don't have that in contingency. And we're gonna have to look at taking money out of the fund balance in order to make this money up, in order to keep it. And one of the biggest things that we do have going, in order to bring in somebody and start another service, takes an awful lot of time.
It sounds self-serving, but I'd be pessimistic about that would be it would be more economical. Whether it's Hartford Healthcare purchased American Ambulance, and that's kind of the big, operation I think that's starting to spread throughout the state. I don't know that that's would be providing the kind of service that you have now.
And
Or at the
we
same cost.
And we had problems keeping AMR with the paramedic intercept.
Yeah.
Many times they had threatened to back out, and we got a contract with NECOG since, oh God, what was it? The early 90s, when that all came into place. And it was not advantageous where they were making money. It had to be on the transports going from hospital to hospital. They were not making the money, so it's not very lucrative.
No,
And Bob Holdsworth study that he did showed that.
yeah. Yeah, he's been very helpful, and I think we continue to rely on him to help us, with his advice going through this whole process going forward too.
But I'm gonna have to assume that, Putnam's gonna be bringing this up as well. And I would have to think that their board and finance, and the selectmen are gonna be asking for assurances that transparency and so forth, that
Yeah,
we're kept in the loop of everything that's going on.
yeah, we did meet actually with the Board of Selectmen, not last week, the week before. They did unanimously recommend that to the Board of Finance, and that's coming up for that funding with the Board of Finance next week. So we're hopeful that that's going to come through that amount, but yeah, and the transparency, I think we need to build the board too. I mean, it's difficult to get folks with, I think, the background and also the interest and the motivation to want to participate and help, with it. I think we do the best we can with who we have. Do have good representation.
So I think you recognize the issue, it's just that it didn't get back.
Yeah,
And I think the three of us selectmen, the one thing we can agree on, and I'm a supporter of the service, however, I'd like to see, none of us want to see this happen again. We'd like to have some sense that
sure.
some changes are going to be enacted, just to help prevent this from ever happening again. But I know Suzanne wants to say something.
Yeah.
I think that we need some documentation of the financials, and I also feel like we need some sort of a correct, whatever plan that you have put in place so this does not happen again, to be brought forward. I think that we can't blindly hand a check over without having documentation That's not fiscally responsible to our taxpayers.
I mean,
What kind, you're just looking for a profit and loss statement, or what are you looking for?
I
When you
would like,
say
I'd like to,
financial.
I'd like to see the budget for one thing. We've never
Okay.
been privy to the budget, the surplus, the revenue,
I know Rob has a full binder full of every single meeting and every single month, so, or quarter, I think, maybe by the quarter.
It's about every 2 months.
I'll reach out to Rob and we can get that to you both.
the operating
Yeah,
budget.
Yep,
which means the Board of Finance in theory already has it. Because Bob is the chair of the Board of Finance,
I don't know that he's necessarily offered that up.
not as of yet, but I'm saying he
Right.
has the information.
Well, we
Yeah.
can certainly try to route, when.
Oh, yes.
Every month we get a treasurer's report and Tammy does run reports. We can forward those on to whoever needs to disseminate those.
Yeah.
Certainly not anything we're trying to obviously hide from
Right.
anybody. We did.
But I think Ken's got a good point. This was not a new issue, but we're just being blindsided with it. And I mean, I've heard rumors and I've been able to pull your tax statements because you're a nonprofit, income tax, tax statements, and it showed me the last 2 years of running a deficit. So this is not a new issue. It's just that this board was not made aware. And as Ken said, we want to
we
make sure
can-
moving forward that this doesn't happen again.
Mhm. I want to say there is an amount of I mean, you have 3 board members. Questions could have been asked. It really could have. And I agree.
I was asking in the beginning.
I
and we
don't
were
think
getting
this is blindsiding.
reports.
This is sharing. This is, number one, they don't have an accountant that works for the service. They have a bookkeeper who works very limited hours. The service is trying to make do. Yeah, but we can certainly get the reports. I wouldn't say that we're being blindsided. They're sharing details as best as they can with a volunteer board. And with a part-time bookkeeper that works for the service. So. But we can work harder at sharing more information on a monthly basis, like Ed had said. So. Shall we wait to get the details on the budget?
Well,
I mean. I would be fine, I would personally be fine moving it forward to the Board of Finance.
well, that's why I made the mention that Rob Wurge is one of our representatives. He's also the Board of Finance Chair. So he has the information to explain to the Board of Finance. And he's been there since the beginning when we brought the contracts up and everything.
Yeah, he's been very helpful.
Yeah.
He's been helpful in formulating the budget and coming
Right,
up.
he's been there from the beginning. So with that, he's well versed and knows what we're up against. And like I said, we've got another year to go. And you got to keep it afloat no matter what.
Yeah.
Because whatever we decide to put in place, start one up, whatever it may be, takes an awful lot of time.
And the options for going out to bid are extremely limited. It's not like there's a lot of services around.
So
And not a lot of services that have the capacity to absorb another town.
I'm just gonna comment on that. We don't know because we never went out to bid.
Suzanne, name every single service that is around us.
You can cross state lines.
I don't think you
think that's-
can.
We have Mortlake, we have
EMS.
Woodstock, we have KB there, yeah, and you can, but you
We
have
have
to get a
KB,
special
Woodstock, American Legion.
Mortlake. I mean, there's more than we realize, but we don't know. That's all I'm saying. We never went out to bid.
And Woodstock has been on the bubble for the last
Yeah, I think
few
we were-
years.
Frankly, we're surprised that we thought Woodstock would approach us, and I living in town, everyone here's Scuttlebutt, I'm not so sure that the model they have now. The town is putting a lot of money into that.
Whether or not it's sustainable, I don't know.
I hope it is selfishly, but
to add them to the regionalization of this, and if you look back at the NECOG report that was mentioned, that these three towns would, the main question would be where to centrally locate or however to cover the area,
Exactly.
which is gonna be the geographical issue at hand, because every substation that you have costs more money to keep going
Yeah.
versus one, and we all know what the response times need to be depending on the situation of that specific call. You know, minutes to seconds can be very critical. So. But getting us the information
Yeah.
is good so that we know and we get what we need going forward in the future from our representatives and keeping abreast. But when you're owing this kind of money, eventually the bill collectors are gonna come calling. And Eastford, you know, he's only gonna hold so long himself before, you know,
We have to rely on him to continue repairing things when they need to be repaired.
because he's holding the cost, whatever it may be. And I think is it Bob?
Chris Bowen.
Chris Bowen.
Yeah.
Been in business a long time.
Yeah.
But everybody has their expenses.
I think
as
he
well.
understands the challenges, you know, dealing with trying to evolve to where, you know, we're gonna be in a better place. I'm confident that.
But even when it comes to buying new equipment, replacing the stretchers, lift into the ambulances, et cetera,
Yeah.
gets very costly.
It does.
So. You can think about this bailing this out as well as possibly building a little bit of a cushion fund in order to cover the future expenses.
I think it'd be
Because
very
you-
helpful and take a lot of stress, I think, off of everybody involved. You know, trying to not maintain the service. I mean, the staff and the EMTs are all doing an excellent job. They continue to, I think, be
Well-
showing up every day. It's just trying to have the structure.
I think that we've expressed our concerns, you know, with the how we got to this point.
Yeah.
But again, ultimately mandated by state statute, we have to provide the service no matter what. So, and with Rob being on the Board of Finance, you know, I'll make the motion that we request from the Board of Finance the 60,000 to augment the needs of the service at this time and leave it in their hands, the Board of Finance.
I will second that motion. Still open for discussion.
But again, we need those assurances and what we're gonna be doing to rectify that. And I think that if you can provide us with that and show what we have done, would be very helpful, so that way we can reflect back in the future and check in on these
Yeah,
things.
realize it's important. And it's important for the town, it's important for us. You know, we're learning as we go along. This wasn't something that certainly was anticipated now. I think we have to make adjustments and both, you know, how we share things, how we handle these matters when they come up. So it's not, you know, something that comes out of the blue.
And one of the other things, again, we were talking about Thompson Hill. I know that the town is looking to renovate your current location. Because there had been talk about P&W, et cetera, and that didn't fly, but we gotta be able to house them, and so we gotta look at whatever the going forward, especially for the next Board of Selectmen coming in. New Board of Finance members that'll be coming in the next election, what the long-term planning is, you know, short and long-term, get it, you know,
Sure.
the needs
Yeah,
and possibly how we can address those.
I think Putnam is moving forward. They originally were considering purchasing a building for multi-purpose in town, and that didn't really move forward. And then they are now going to, they're putting on like a
Modular.
modular to the existing, so there'll be an area where people can bunk and shower and so forth. Now at the public location.
Yeah, this sounds almost like the Putnam DMV. That was the portable classroom that lasted for decades.
Right, any other discussion? Floor's open. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
No,
Okay.
opposed.
All right,
Thank you
Thank
for all
you.
your time.
thank you for taking the time.
look
to-
forward to the information coming.
Yes. Be sure to get it.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item 8, bid opening. As previously decided, we did go out to bid, on the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission. There was one interested, resident in 0 Woodland Ave, Lot 5, shown on the assessor's map. Block 116, or I'm sorry, map 116, block 19, lot 5. Ken, do you want to open one of these? We have lot 5 and lot 6.
Did
Ken
they
have-
come as two different bids?
Yeah, we insisted that they come in separate envelopes.
Okay,
So they're sealed, they're stamped at the appropriate time that it was due. We only received one for each, so I'm assuming it's from the resident that was interested. Okay, Ken, what do you have?
From John S. Jezierski bidding on 0 Woodland Ave, lot 5. And it's gonna become public knowledge anyway, because it's gotta go to town meeting. It's to approve the sale for $12.50.
Yep, and I, John S. Jezierski, am bidding on 0 Woodland Ave, lot 6, in the amount of $1,250. And if you recall, we did put a minimum bid of $1,000. He is the sole bidder, and yeah, we will take it to town meeting. He's a sole bidder and he did bid above $1,000, so. All right, we'll put that on an agenda for the next town meeting. Agenda item 9, TMHS project graduation request for fundraiser at the transfer station. They are looking for Saturday, September 27th, October 18th, and November 15th from 8 AM to 3 PM. The requested letter came from Elena Berniaus. I'm gonna mess
I
up.
tried to pronounce it, I couldn't either.
Briniowski.
Thank you.
It was a very well-written letter.
Yes,
These days, there's no conflicts.
Marie would have checked and there was none, so,
I'll make a motion to approve the request
second.
with the dates listed.
okay, motion by Ken, second by Suzanne. Any discussion on this request? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, agenda item 10. If you recall, Jason Sainonge had resigned from his planning and zoning alternate seat. The Republican Town Committee, because Jason was a Republican, it's typically customary for us to take recommendations from the RTC, or in some cases, the DTC. The board doesn't have to take the recommendation, but the Republican Town Committee did unanimously vote to recommend Daniel Bennett to fill the vacated planning and zoning alternate seat. And this, according to the bylaws, he would fill out the term.
So that's my question. He would not have to run?
He wouldn't have to run. It's in their bylaws.
Oh, okay, okay.
If I may.
Other boards have to, but.
Okay, I'll make the
Zoning don't.
motion that we appoint Daniel Bennett to P and Z alternate.
Yeah, and I'll second that motion, and Mr. Lenke wants to speak. He's the vice chair of planning and zoning.
Just an appointment.
Oh, I know. Were you gonna
So-
say something though, John?
Yeah, she was saying something I didn't want to interrupt.
She made the motion and I seconded it
Oh,
to appoint him.
Sorry, guys. But this was done correctly, where the RTC appointed another Republican and all of that, and it's for 4 years,
Mhm.
so he can come up for reelection in 4 years, because
Right.
way our bylaws read, plus what the state statute says, we're filling a seat that's been elected to, you know, and then any other seat, say, down the road, something happens, God forbid, but that seat stays with the Republicans, you know, so it was done right. I'm glad it was set up that way.
Yeah.
John, can you say your name and address just so that we,
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, Suzanne. John B. Ledke, 304 Brickyard Road.
All right, so Suzanne had the motion and I had the second. Any discussion from the board members on this recommended appointment to fill a seat?
no, not for me.
Okay, all in favor of appointing Daniel Bennett to fill the vacated Planning and Zoning Commission alternate seat, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that would be a 4-year term.
Right.
All right,
We have something to sign for that.
no, because it's an elected seat,
Okay.
not,
Okay.
we're appointing him, but it's not a, yeah.
Okay.
Agenda item 11. New hire. We received a letter from the Recreation Department. They request approval in, hiring the following candidates for the before and after school program. Robin Madeo, Emmeline Kwitowski, Joshua Mayer, and Brenda Olson. The above listed will be hired as part-time staff, working between 6 and 19 hours per week. And the Recreation Department kindly requests the board approve the hire of the above named candidates. Generally, these are younger individuals, school-aged, most of them.
I'll make a motion to hire these individuals as
Uh,
presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on these new hires? Okay, all in favor of approving the following, the candidates that were recommended by the Recreation Department, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Agenda item 12. This is with much regret that we received the resignation of Jared Jacobone. He's been with us, I believe, for approximately 6 months. He is our library director. We will be doing an exit interview, but he did mention that this change, he had another library that he accepted a position at, and that it was a better course of action for his family. Yeah, so I'll make a motion that and also we had Brian, I'm just gonna do this all as two. Brian Falk, who was the evening custodian, also resigned from his position. So I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation of both Jared Jacobone, our library director, and Brian Falk, our library evening custodian, with much regret.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Yep.
Sorry, with the evening
Yep.
custodian, does that leave them without a custodian or do they still have the morning custodian?
Well, they still have the morning custodian.
Okay,
So,
just the evening one is, because I couldn't remember if during the furlough, I thought one had resigned, so it's not, they still have one. Okay,
they still had one, yeah.
okay.
All right, all in favor of approving these resignations with regret, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations. We've got two, so we've got agenda item 13A and 13B. Let's tackle 13A first. If you recall, we had discussed the Zero Linehouse Road parcel. I had much reservation of letting that parcel go because it is a valuable buildable 2-acre lot. If I remember correctly, it was 2 acres. We sent it back. We had the 824 from Planning and Zoning. We sent it back just for them to think about it again if the Board of Selectmen were to consider selling it at more of a market price. And they did send us back and they revised their referral, voting 9 in favor and 1 abstention. to retain ownership of the parcel. Technically, we did receive an 824 to begin with. This was just, I really wasn't looking for a second. I was looking just to get opinions. I think that's what we were all looking for. So I don't know what this board thinks. I know what I have for an opinion, but I'd love to hear what both of you think.
Just on the Linehouse Road?
Just Linehouse Road for now. And then we'll go to the Little Pond area, which I think is a much more, it's a much easier discussion to have.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
What did we say the market value for these parcels could be?
Oh, sure, making me think back. Upwards of 90,000.
Yeah, and we're discussing, we just discussed 60,000 in pretty in-depth, pretty thoroughly. And there's how many two parcels here?
It could be split into two potentially.
Could be potentially.
right
split into
engineer.
two.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah, possibly.
Which we have a fund balance that's lacking. We have budgets that we can't pass. And we decimated the budget this year, and that selling those parcels could be a big help to our town. We're not in the business of, owning land but we are in the business of owning land because we're a town, but on the other hand, this could be a good source of income, revenue.
I think as I had stated too, there were roughly 11 parcels in town that the assessor has identified as being owned by the town of Thompson. And being of good, like real value. I'm a little bit more inclined to not sell it at this time at all. I would absolutely not even consider selling it as unbuildable, with a deed restriction. I'm absolutely against that.
Against that, okay.
Yes, but maybe after, because every single plant, 9 members were in favor of retaining ownership, I would be more inclined to consider all 11 at some point, but maybe not yet. Maybe it's not during this administration. Maybe it's the next administration or the administration after us, after that administration. I just don't know. I don't think the town's desperate yet.
We sent it back for them to rethink it.
Yeah.
They did rethink it, which is exactly what we asked. Because we sell it and it goes into on conservation, it's worth X number of dollars. Because you're putting it into open space.
If you do that.
But I'm saying by having the restriction on the
Right.
property. So that brings the property down to well below value by far.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, if we decide to build on it and go, which they said they didn't want to do that when they were thinking about it. I'm inclined to go with the recommendation that came back from the P and Z to leave it as town-owned open space at this time.
They didn't say why they voted the way they did they? I guess we'd have to watch the meeting.
Yeah, I was in the meeting. I think most of them didn't want to see, they thought it was more valuable to be conserved because of the nature of what was around the parcels. It's just, it's the typical Thompson response.
No,
Let's protect and
I know, and I feel like
Right-
we are in
right now-
crisis mode.
Whereas Paul Hopkins will say, we can put a $600,000 house on there and it can make much better, a nice chunk of tax revenue. Because he's not, like our assessor's not seeing it as just a $90,000 parcel. He's looking at it's 600,000 or more.
The big picture.
He's looking at the big picture. But since it was a request of Mr. Cordes to purchase it, I feel like And obviously, Mr. Cordes would have wanted it to stay in conservation.
Right,
And now that we have the planning and zoning
Recommendation.
recommendation to not sell it, if we're considering selling it as market rate, I would be more inclined just to hold off and maybe look at the complete picture of all 11 parcels at some point, which will be after we're gone.
Based on this, the value of the land, we keep it as open space now, it still remains an asset that is only gonna go up in
Right.
value.
Well, let's hope it should.
They don't make land anymore.
I know.
So the land will go up in value, where it may be worth 90,000 today. In 10 years, it may be worth 200,000.
And we might need it in 10 years.
And in 10 years, we may
Hopefully
need
not.
it. So by honoring the P and Z's revised information, again, I'm inclined to go with it.
yeah, I have no problem with not taking any action either.
The one thing I didn't want was I didn't want to sell it with the restrictions because it
I-
just,
Yeah. And to be honest, I could go either way. If we said, if the majority of this board said, I think we should sell it, I would definitely be on board with that. Right now, if we want to wait, that's fine. It will go up in value, but the cost of everything is going to go up in 10 years. So you might get 200,000 for it in 10 years, but
and
everything
have
else,
$1 million home on it.
exactly, but everything else will have tripled.
Right.
So, and I see where Paul's coming from, and I like that. I like that he's thinking like that.
Well, it's always an asset that we can, that future boards can explore in the,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've opened the door for them.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
So we don't need to do anything at this
no action
No.
taken.
take no action on this item, okay. All right, and then the little agenda item 13B, Little Pond Area Town-Owned Property. So the two bids that we got today are technically the last parcels that the Planning and Zoning Commission will recommend to sell, because now they are recommending that the remaining town parcels be put into a to develop a conservation easement. And the Conservation Commission has indicated that they could use their open space fund to pay for any of the surveys and legal fees associated with taking those parcels and putting them into a permanent conservation easement in perpetuity. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Mhm.
It is. It's one of those days. Yeah, so that's what's before us now. It was Ken's suggestion that we ask the Planning and Zoning Commission to look at all those parcels. A lot of those parcels are in wetlands anyways. The natural diversity database has concluded. Let's just put it this way, there's the habitat for species of concern. Besides the fact that I don't think we'd want much more development surrounding that lake without actually having a sewer system,
With the aquifer, et cetera.
right?
What was Paul Hopkins' take on this?
Oh, I don't think he has, I don't think he has too much interest either way
In this?
in this.
He
yeah.
doesn't see $1 million home?
No, I don't think so. You know why? And because I think he sees he sees things, I mean, we'd have to ask him. I'm not quoting on this, but in my interaction with him, I think he agrees that you can't put too much more development around that
And
lake.
it does sound like it's a lot of wetlands. I'm looking at what they have sent us, and
Well, that was the reason why I wanted it sent, and the board
Yeah.
did send it to see what the status of the property was, the conditions, liability, et cetera, and what the impact would be. And they did the great job of doing that, which is exactly what we wanted, so that way we go forward. And future boards of selectmen will not be looking to entertain this, because it's not in the town's best interest based on these the stuff that they pointed out.
Do we need to, oh, sorry, Ken.
Yeah, right now, in theory, the town owns it, it is in open space.
But I would agree that moving forward with developing a conservation easement. And utilizing the open space funds that the Conservation Commission has to do so. Would put a final seal on it being,
Do we have any idea what this will cost?
what did they think, John, about 20? 20 or 30?
Yeah, thank you.
20 or
I was-
30,000?
Yeah, I think so.
How much?
Was it 20,000?
Somewhere in there, give or take, but it's best interest that we do it that way.
Right, and I believe the Conservation Commission has about 25,000 in
Yeah,
their open
I
space.
don't think it was gonna be over that, but the whole idea is that, like you just said, there are quite a few homes down there, people gotta realize, we saw one, we did the walk that day, found out the house was going for 900,000.
Mm,
And I kind of looked and small space, okay? We need that because of the whole area, because of Little Pond and where the sand pit and everything is. Let's just keep it that way so nothing can be built or added on, like Kenny and you just said. Who's gonna, how are we gonna put in a sewer system and, water line? Where are we
Right.
gonna get it from? We gotta try to tie into Webster? They're gonna look at us like you're crazy, right? So it's better to leave it alone, excuse me?
Yeah, that'd be the only one.
Right?
There.
Well, but if we do this, that the homes that are there will be sufficient for the area. We don't need it to look like it's becoming a what, where it got overfilled. That, but I'm just
Uh,
using that.
the only question that I have, spending 25,000 to put this in is a lot of money.
mhm.
And it drains that fund completely. Has anybody approached our land attorney, Rich Roberts, to ask what we could do to put this land into a, leaving it as open space, whatever, that wouldn't cost that kind of money?
I think I'm almost positive there was some conversation, some back and forth with Tara. I follow a lot of it, but I don't have it off top of my head. So this isn't a decision we have to make tonight. I can look and get some additional information
The best avenue.
and we
to
can
go to
try to get
protect it.
some type of, yeah, what is the best avenue to protect these
With the
lots?
least amount of cost.
Suzanne, what do you think?
It's a good-
Yeah, I think we can table it.
Okay,
We don't need to it's been sitting there for years. We don't need to take action on it. We can wait.
or we could totally do nothing.
Or that, well, that was kind of
But
my
I feel
thought
like
too,
we-
is
Yeah,
we're restricting this, but we don't know what the future holds. And I get it, people want to conserve it and preserve it, but if we do nothing, it is still preserved and conserved. So
But if we can reach out to Rich Roberts before our next meeting, I'm sure it's a very simple question for him. And we can get that information for the October meeting.
all right, I'll look back at a previous email that he might have replied to and I'll,
Mhm.
yeah. And if it's not clear in those emails from him, I'll ask him the question.
Thank you.
All right, any other business to bring before the board this evening?
I have nothing.
Me neither.
I'm good.
All right. With that, we'll move on to agenda item 15, citizen comments. We'll start with the Zoom audience. Ms. Sally White.
Hello.
Hi, Sally.
Few things. I heard
Name
mention
and address,
about,
please.
308 East Thompson Road, the notorious East Thompson Road.
Thank you.
And regarding Chase Road and the location of the ambulance, realizing there may or may not be absolute protocol, but it would seem that the solution to calming down the neighborhood is that discretion and common sense be used when they go off on a call. if it's during the night and they're not going to encounter interference at the intersection getting out to 193, or getting out, or if they don't have to be putting on all of the lights and the siren. I realize there are times that drivers are oblivious and there have to be indications for them to wake up and get out of the way. Of course, that makes sense. But when there isn't anything impeding their travel, and it's during the prime sleeping hours, it would seem that they need to just be considerate and use their heads, be alert to their surroundings and respond appropriately. But I think you probably solve the issue there.
Can I just say, Sally, I think they have they have to follow the guidelines that OEMS sets out for them.
Well, I wondered how hard and fast they were, and if some common sense couldn't be used in terms of the residential area, and if there's nobody at the intersection.
And I get what you're saying, because I
Yeah.
hear them at night too, and I'm like, oh my God, really? But I think they have to follow the guidelines, because what if, God forbid, they ever do have some kind of an accident and they weren't following protocol?
Well, they're not gonna have an accident unless something impedes their travels. But I hear what you're saying, Suzanne.
Yeah, I just would never want to see them compromise their position when they have protocols in place. But I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
In reference to Sally, can you speak with Tammy and get a clarification on what can and cannot be done with that?
Yep.
And then I would also ask, in the past, when I've watched Zoom, the people in their homes or wherever are able to see the speakers. And I know I heard very little, and it seemed to fade off with the attorney that was speaking in regards to the ambulance service. The last third of it, I really couldn't hear. His voice kept getting quieter and quieter. And it would be nice if we were able to see the speakers. And if indeed they really were up and using the microphones correctly, that would be a great help. I give kudos to Suzanne. I was quite surprised to learn that you don't see the operating budget of an entity we have a contract with, and to be handing over money is kind of gives me the willies. Talking about protocol, that's just basic fiscal responsibility. And if the Board of Selectmen, you administer the town's business, and I believe who signed the contract? It wasn't the Board of Finance that signed the contract. So full visibility into the financials and whatever situations come up would, to me, be a very basic thing for the Board of Selectmen. And by that token, any of us taxpayers should be able to walk in to the town hall and see those records also. And speaking of roads, at the intersection of East Thompson Road and Spicer Road, there are blind knolls from the north and from the south. And it would seem very prudent to have intersection warning signs on either side of Spicer Road. As people come up the hill by the cemetery, and all of a sudden you've got people trying to get out of Spicer Road, and they have no idea who's coming from the south or the north. And there's always a lot of close accidents there. And I kind of had to smile at the comment, Amy, when you said typical Thompson, they want to conserve. And I say this in, good naturedly, but the bulk of the people in Thompson and the character of the town is that we don't want to monetize our location, our topography, what's left of the small town ruralness. And the other thing is that when you try to monetize things like that, that create another source of revenue, it presents a perspective of a small number of people trying to go around the referendum process and bring in parallel income, and that isn't necessarily good form. But thanks, it was good to hear you all debating things. So that's it from me. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too, Sally. Ms. Valerie Clark.
Valerie Clark just wasn't going to comment, but spinning off of a couple of points that Sally just made, I think that, in my experience, that the EMS services do have some discretion on when to use lights and sirens. In the rare cases, fortunately rare, and not just in Thompson, when I have had to make an EMS 911 call for a equine medical emergency where a human was hurt and it was involving horses, I always call and initiate the call saying, please do not use lights or sirens. We have horses here. It will create a worse situation for the horses and scare them, and the humans, there will be more humans hurt, or the human that is hurt will get more hurt. And they honor that request. So they must have some discretion and the ability to use sensibility. And then Sally's point about the intersection at Spicer Road. I've been traveling East Thompson Road a lot lately, and not only are those blind knolls, it's also narrow there because of the bridge. The road is very narrow, and I've pulled a horse trailer through there, and it's frightening because people are just jumping out. And in fact, I was on East Thompson Road this morning and someone jumped out in front of me from Spicer Road, slammed on their brakes in the middle of my lane, and just sat there. And so there we were. And I had to pull into the left-hand lane on a blind side in order to get past them because they wouldn't move. So there we are. Anyway.
And
so,
I did make note to talk to Joe about that.
Yep.
Valerie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did,
Sally White.
oh, okay, you spoke to me.
Yeah.
I think the reference to the bridge area is the little pond at the foot of the hill by the cemetery in front of Vanessa's house. And it's very narrow there. And there aren't, years ago, for decades and decades, there were significant guardrails there. And there aren't. And it would be so easy for someone to get one tire or two or more off the side of the road, and then they're toast. They're just rolling down over the side of the hill into the brook on the east side, and somewhat similar on the other side, although there's a berm there for part of it. But it probably would be helpful to have some significant guardrails there. Again, I don't know why they were taken out, but it's a perilous place. It's almost like a little mini Alps there on the east side. You wouldn't want to, if there's somebody that's inexperienced at driving and someone isn't really sharing the road, it could be a real disaster.
I'll make note of that as well. Guardrails. Any other citizen comments from the Zoom room? Citizen comments live in person. Oh, Valerie Clark?
I'm back. Just that in the old days, here's the history. I used to ride my horse down East Thompson Road, and it was safe and not a problem to do. Last year I attempted it I had my husband follow me in his car so that I could achieve that. And it was very scary. Fortunately, I have a good horse. That's the one comment about the recommendation on guardrails is when I got to that bridge, I was very grateful there were no guardrails because I was able to ride closer to the edge and stay out of the traffic lane as much as I could. So I'd like to still be able to ride my horse on East Thompson Road. It's not out of the question. So thanks.
All right. All right, seeing no other citizen comments, I will just give one shout out. To Putnam EMS. Speaking of sirens, etc., but I was walking my dog and everybody who knows me knows my dog is very precious to me. And the ambulance was coming through the intersection at 193 and 193 and Route 12. And they saw me blocking my dog's ears and they stopped running their sirens until they got far enough away from me. So anyways, I was grateful for that. And so was my dog. All right, agenda item 16. Oh, okay, Valerie Clark's. clapping.
Valerie gave some clapping hands, which was kind of cooler.
Tax refunds. I'll make a motion that we refund Neil R. Anderson, $162.22. Caitlin Olazewski, $5.24. Stephen F. Benoit, $61.81. Craig A. Provost, $50.88. Mark J. Skarodowski, $4.86. Peter T. LaPriere, $12.82, and Thomas R. Karkin, $73.62 for total tax refunds of $371.45. I'll make that motion.
Second,
Okay, all in favor of these tax returns as presented, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Right,
Motion.
adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Ken has the motion, Suzanne has the second. It's 8:37 PM. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody. Thank you
Good
for a
night.
great meeting.
So,